The summer of 2015 in Oak Ridge, a small Massachusetts town, began like any other. The streets were alive with the laughter of children. Gardens bloomed under the July sun, and 16-year-old Madison Walsh had just been accepted into her high school's honors program. With her auburn hair pulled back in a messy ponytail and a smile that could light up any room, Madison was the very picture of the bright future her parents had always dreamed of. On the night of July 17th, Madison was getting ready for a sleepover at her best friend Emily's house. Her younger sister, Sophia, just 12 years old, watched from the doorway as she packed. "Will you bring me one of Mrs. Parker's brownies?" Sophia asked, leaning against the doorframe. Madison rolled her eyes, but a smile touched her lips. "If there are any left, which I highly doubt." "You always say that," Sophia pouted, her expression theatrically wounded. Madison walked over and ruffled her sister's hair. "I'll bring you one this time, I promise. Now let me finish packing or I'll be late." That simple exchange, those everyday words, would become the last memory Sophia would ever have of her sister. The next morning, the phone rang at 8:43. Madison's mother, Diana Walsh, answered, expecting to hear that her daughter was extending her stay at Emily's, as she often did. Instead, the trembling voice of Mrs. Parker, Emily's mother, asked if Madison had come home during the night. "Madison never arrived last night," Mrs. Parker said, her tone laced with a concern that sent a shiver down Diana's spine. The hours that followed were a whirlwind of police calls, neighborhood searches, and questioning. Madison's room remained exactly as she had left it. A sweater tossed on the bed, books stacked on her desk, a half-drunk cup of tea growing cold. Officer Thomas Reynolds, a 20-year veteran of the Oak Ridge Police Department, led the investigation. "The first 48 hours are crucial," he told the Walshes, sitting in their living room, which now felt strangely cold and alien. "We need to know everything about Madison, her friends, her habits, if you noticed anything unusual in the last few days." What no one knew then was that Madison was not the only one. In the preceding weeks, 3 other teenagers had vanished from neighboring towns. 17-year-old Olivia Chen disappeared after her swim practice in Worcester. 15-year-old Zoe Miller never returned from the library in Cambridge. And 16-year-old Jasmine Torres went for a morning run in Providence, Rhode Island, and vanished like mist in the sun. At first, the connection went unnoticed. Different jurisdictions, separate police departments, and a common, tragic profile. Teenagers, possibly runaways, cases that, regrettably, don't always receive the attention they deserve. But Reynolds had a gut feeling, an uneasy sensation that his years of service had taught him never to ignore. 2 weeks after Madison's disappearance, Reynolds connected the dots. The 4 girls were all honor students. All had vanished en route to or from routine activities. None had taken more than the essentials: a phone, found abandoned in each case, some cash, a school ID. There were no signs of a struggle, no witnesses who saw anything suspicious. It was as if the earth had swallowed them whole. "We're looking at something bigger than teenage runaways," Reynolds told his chief, spreading photographs of the 4 girls across his desk. "These girls didn't leave willingly." Meanwhile, in the Walsh home, time took on a strange quality. The days dragged on with painful slowness, yet the months seemed to evaporate. Diana quit her job as a nurse to dedicate herself completely to the search for her daughter. James, Madison's father, channeled his grief into overtime, as if physical exhaustion could numb the mental torment. And Sophia, the younger sister, carried the invisible weight of the irrational guilt felt by those left behind. By November of 20, the number of disappearances had risen to 7 across New England. The FBI formed a task force, national media began covering the story, and the term, the New England Vanishings, started to circulate. Theories were floated from human trafficking rings to a serial killer who knew how to hide the bodies. Diana joined a support group for parents of missing children. There she met Helen Chen, mother of Olivia, the swimmer from Worcester. Two women bound by the most terrible of connections: uncertainty. The worst part isn't the pain, Helen confessed to Diana one night after a meeting, sharing coffee in an empty diner. It's the not knowing. It's not being able to fully grieve because there's this tiny sliver of hope that refuses to die. It's living in limbo. A year after Madison's disappearance, the posters bearing her face began to fade under the sin and rain. Calls to the tip line dwindled. The case remained open, but the intensity of the search had inevitably waned. James and Diana divorced, another statistic in the tragic tally of marriages that don't survive the loss of a child. Sophia, now 13, lived with her mother in the same house where Madison's room remained untouched. A shrine to an interrupted life. Officer Reynolds, against the advice of his superiors, remained obsessed with the case. In his free time, he reviewed files, searched for patterns, and contacted detectives in other jurisdictions. He felt he was missing something, a fundamental piece of the puzzle. By 2017, the number of similar cases had grown to 12 along the entire East Coast. All girls between 15 and 17, all promising students, all vanished without a trace during their daily routines. And then silence. Throughout 2018, no new cases matching the pattern emerged. It was as if the perpetrators had completed their mysterious harvest or moved their operation elsewhere. The investigation languished. Resources were redirected. The families, trapped in the limbo Helen Chen had described, tried to move on, never knowing if their daughters were over dead. No one could have imagined that a simple security video from a Chicago mall, 4 years later, would change everything. No one could have foreseen that the face of Madison Walsh, older but unmistakable, would reappear like a ghost from the past. And no one was prepared for the horrifying truth that discovery would unearth. Because Madison and the others weren't dead, they were lost in a way that was far more terrifying. March 12, 2019. Lakeside Mall on the outskirts of Chicago, security guard Kevin Mendoza had worked the same post for 7 years, watching the same screens, walking the same corridors. Monotony was part of the job, and in a way, he appreciated it. A quiet day meant a good day. That Tuesday afternoon, while reviewing the previous night's recordings for a teenager who had allegedly graffitied a bathroom wall, he noticed something odd. In the East Corridor, near a secondary entrance, a group of 5 young women walked in perfect synchrony. They were all dressed identically: blue jeans, simple white t-shirts, and black jackets. Their hair was pulled back in exactly the same way. "That's weird," Kevin muttered, leaning closer to the screen. What caught his attention wasn't just the uniformity of their dress, but the rigidity of their movements. They walked together, but they didn't converse. Their faces were impassive, as if in a trance. Kevin rewound the footage several times. The women entered at 10:14 p.m., systematically visited 3 stores, a pharmacy, an electronics store, and a bookstore, and left exactly 47 minutes later. At no point did they separate. At no point did they smile or show any emotion. Out of curiosity, Kevin exported the video and shared it with his cousin, a police officer in Detroit. "Ever see anything like this? Looks like a cult or something," he wrote in the message. He had no way of knowing he had just lit the fuse on a media firestorm. 3 days later, the video appeared on a Reddit subforum dedicated to strange behavior caught on camera. Someone titled it, "Human Clones Caught in Chicago Mall." The post amassed thousands of comments in hours. By the weekend, the video had migrated to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Theories proliferated from government experiments to classic mind control. But it was one particular comment that changed the course of history. The girl on the left is Madison Walsh. She disappeared in 2015 in Massachusetts. The comment came from an anonymous account, but it included a link to an old news article about Madison's disappearance and a school photo that, indeed, showed a face remarkably similar to one of the young women in the video. In Oak Ridge, Massachusetts, 16-year-old Sophia Walsh received a message from an old friend. "Have you seen this? She looks so much like your sister." Sophia was home alone when she opened the link. The video, barely 2 minutes long, made her heart stop. She played the sequence again and again, growing more certain each time. That way of walking, the particular tilt of the head, the way her hair, though darker now, fell over her left shoulder. There was no doubt. "Mom," was all she could say when Diana answered the phone. "I found Madison." The FBI officially reopened the case 24 hours later. Special Agent Marcus Rivera, a specialist in missing persons, took the lead. His first move was to request the original high-resolution video. "I want full facial recognition on all 5 women," he ordered his team, cross-referenced with every missing young woman case from the last 10 years. The FBI's facial recognition system returned preliminary results in less than a day. 3 high-probability matches: Madison Walsh, 98.7%, Olivia Chen, 96.3%, and Jasmine Torres, 94.1%. The other 2 women did not match any cases in the database. Diana Walsh received the call while at work. Her hands trembled so much she could barely hold the phone. "We have a near-definitive match, Mrs. Walsh," Rivera told her. "We believe your daughter is alive." That night, for the first time in almost 4 years, Diana went into Madison's room and allowed herself to cry. Not from despair, but from hope. The case exploded in the national media. "Vanished teens reappear after 4 years," the headlines proclaimed. The Chen and Torres families were also notified and soon joined the Walshes at a press conference organized by the FBI. "We are following multiple leads," Rivera stated before the cameras. "We ask anyone who may have information about the current whereabouts of these young women to contact our special hotline immediately." What Rivera didn't mention publicly was that they already had a solid lead. Analysis of the mall's exterior cameras showed the 5 women boarding a white Ford Transit van with no visible license plates. The van had been tracked via traffic cameras to the outskirts of the city, where its trail went cold in an abandoned industrial area. Officer Thomas Reynolds, now promoted to detective, requested to join the federal task force. "I know this case better than anyone," he argued to his superiors. "I've followed every lead for 4 years. Reluctantly, the FBI agreed to bring him on as a local liaison. "I need all the information you have on what happened after I was pushed off the case," Reynolds told Rivera during their first meeting. "The truth is, not much happened," Rivera admitted. "After 2017, the investigation all but froze. No new leads, no bodies, no witnesses. It was like chasing ghosts." "And now the ghosts have shown up on a security camera," Reynolds murmured. The team established an operations center in Chicago. Undercover agents patrolled Lakeside Mall and its surroundings. Thousands of hours of security footage from recent months were analyzed, searching for prior appearances of the same group of women. It was Helen Chen, Olivia's mother, who provided the next crucial clue. While obsessively re-watching the viral video, she noticed something on her daughter's wrist. A plastic bracelet with a barcode. "It looks like a hospital ID band," Helen pointed out. "See how they're all wearing an identical one?" FBI technicians enhanced the image and confirmed her observation. Each of the 5 women wore a white bracelet with a barcode on her left wrist. Could be employees somewhere, one agent suggested. Maybe access badges. Or patients, Reynolds said, a memory sparking. Back in 2016, we looked into a tip about a private clinic in Vermont, one supposedly experimenting with behavioral modification therapies. We didn't find anything concrete. But now, I'm wondering. Rivera ordered a review of that old lead. Sure enough, in 2016, the Evergreen Mental Wellness Center, an exclusive psychiatric clinic in the mountains of Vermont, had been investigated. The inquiry was dropped for lack of evidence, but now, in a new light, certain details were unsettling. The Evergreen Center had closed abruptly in 2017, right when the disappearances stopped. Its director, Dr. Lawrence Fleming, a renowned psychiatrist specializing in identity disorders, had emigrated to Europe. And most disturbingly, the clinic had been funded by a foundation called New Dawn, whose records were surprisingly opaque. "We need to locate Dr. Fleming," Rivera ordered. "And I want everything on New Dawn. Who funds it? Where do they operate? Everything!" While the investigation forged ahead, Sophia Walsh, in her bedroom in Massachusetts, had begun her own search. As a digital native, she knew how to navigate corners of the internet that adults barely understood. She created a fake profile on several forums discussing the viral video and began to gather information. One night, she received a private message. "If you're looking for your sister, you should look into Harmony House." The message came from a newly created account. When Sophia tried to reply, she discovered the account had already been deleted. "Harmony House," she whispered, immediately searching the term. She found nothing relevant, just furniture companies and an old shelter in Boston that had closed years ago. Sophia hesitated, unsure whether to share this information with her mother or the authorities. It could be a cruel prank or something far more sinister. Finally, she decided to contact Detective Reynolds directly, the one person she had trusted since the very first days of Madison's disappearance. "Detective, I received a cryptic message," she said over the phone. "It mentioned something called Harmony House in connection with Madison." Reynolds jotted down the name. "Who sent this to you?" "I don't know. The account vanished." "Sophia, promise me you won't go investigating on your own. This could be dangerous." "I promise," Sophia lied, already opening another tab in her browser. What neither of them knew was that less than 20 miles from the FBI's Chicago field office, on an isolated estate surrounded by high walls and protected by sophisticated security systems, 5 young women sat in a stark white room. They were dressed in identical blue gowns as a soft voice repeated from hidden speakers. "You are the Harmony family. You are sisters. There is no past. There is only Harmony House." And Madison Walsh, known now simply as Subject 23, listened obediently. Not a single memory of her former life disturbed the placid surface of her reconditioned mind. The compound known as Harmony House appeared on no official records. Located on a former farmstead outside of Joliet, Illinois, the main building had been gutted and renovated to resemble a medical institution more than a farmhouse. White walls, linoleum floors, security cameras in every corner, and doors that opened only with key cards. In room 23, Madison Walsh, now called Lily, woke every morning at 6 o'clock sharp. She didn't need an alarm. Her body was programmed with precision after years of the same routine. Her room was small but comfortable. A single bed, a desk, a closet with 5 identical sets of clothes, and a window with bars elegantly disguised as decorative elements. That morning, like all others, Lily dressed in the daily uniform, blue jeans, a white t-shirt, and a black jacket for when they went outside. She pulled her hair into a low ponytail and checked the barcode bracelet she never removed, not even to shower. "Good morning, Harmony family," she said upon entering the dining hall, where her sisters were already waiting. Olivia Chen, now Rose, Yasmin Torres, now Daisy, and the other two young women identified simply as Iris and Violet. "Good morning, Lily," they replied in unison with the same flat intonation that marked all their interactions. Breakfast was always the same: oatmeal, fresh fruit, green tea. They ate in silence, interrupted only by the voice from the hidden speakers, repeating the daily mantras about family, harmony, and the purpose of service. At 7:30, the first session of the day began. The five of them proceeded to the treatment room where Dr. Marcus Reed was waiting. He was a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. "How are we feeling today, sisters?" Reed asked, reviewing documents on his tablet. "Grateful and in harmony," they all responded at once. "Excellent. We have a special session today. A new order will be arriving soon, and we need to prepare." The young women didn't react. The word order triggered no alarm, no curiosity. To them, it was simply part of their purpose, to be temporarily dispatched to help those who needed them. What Madison, what Lily did not know, could not know, was that these orders were transactions on a black market for human trafficking. Harmony House was not a clinic or a sanctuary, but a sophisticated brainwashing operation that prepared young women to be leased to wealthy clients seeking docile, obedient, and temporary companionship. The true horror of Harmony House lay not only in its purpose, but in its method. Through a combination of drugs, deep hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and neuro-linguistic reprogramming techniques, they had managed to completely suppress the victims' original identities, replacing them with artificial personalities devoid of free will. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, Detective Reynolds was wasting no time. The Harmony House lead from Sophia had sparked something in his memory. In his years investigating Madison's disappearance, he had heard that name once, mentioned in passing during an interview with a former employee of the Evergreen Center. "Run a search," he told an FBI analyst. "Any connection between Dr. Fleming, the New Dawn Foundation, and something called Harmony House?" The search produced an unexpected hit: a 2016 building permit for renovations on a rural property near Joliet, filed by a company called Harmony Health Services. Its registered agent was a lawyer who also represented the New Dawn Foundation. "We have an address," Reynolds announced, feeling that after 4 long years, he was finally close. Rivera quickly organized a surveillance team. The property had to be watched discreetly before any intervention. "If they're really in there, we can't risk them being moved or worse, harmed if they feel cornered," he explained. For 3 days, undercover agents monitored the property. They confirmed activity, security guards, regular supply deliveries, and most importantly, sightings of several young women walking in an interior garden, all dressed identically. "It's them," an agent confirmed, showing telephoto pictures. "They match the girls from the mall video." Diana Walsh, Helen Chen, and Yasmin Torres' parents were notified that their daughters had possibly been located, but they were asked for absolute discretion. "We are planning a delicate operation," Rivera explained to them. "Any leak could endanger the girls." At Harmony House, oblivious to the developments, Lily, Madison, was preparing for another reinforcement session. These sessions occurred weekly and consisted of the administration of a drug cocktail that kept their minds malleable, followed by hours of repeating their new identities. "Remember, Lily," Dr. Reed would say as he injected the clear liquid into her arm, "you were born here. Your family is Harmony. There is no past." "There is no past," she would repeat mechanically, feeling the drug begin to cloud her perception. What Reed and his colleagues didn't know was that in recent weeks something strange was happening in Lily's mind. Fleeting fragments like blurred photographs from another life had begun to appear in her dreams. A different house, a younger girl calling her by another name, a dog running in a sunny yard. These flashes would disappear upon waking, but they left a persistent unease, a feeling that something did not fit into the perfect order of Harmony House. That very night, as Lily tried to fall asleep, a memory more vivid than the others emerged from the depths of her manipulated mind. She was walking down a sidewalk, her school backpack slung over her shoulder. It was summer and it was hot. She was on her way to Emily's house for a sleepover. Suddenly, a white van pulled up beside her. A man rolled down the window. He looked worried. "Excuse me, have you seen a small dog? He ran out of my car a few minutes ago." Madison, because in that memory she was Madison, stepped closer to help. She didn't see the syringe until she felt the prick in her neck. Then darkness. Lily sat up in bed, gasping. The memory had been so vivid, so real, but it couldn't be true. She was Lily. She had always been Lily. She was born in Harmony House. "There is no past," she whispered into the darkness, trying to calm herself. But the memory persisted, like a crack in a dam threatening to give way under the pressure of the water. Meanwhile, in a Chicago hotel room, the FBI team was finalizing the details of the operation. They had blueprints of the property, estimates of security personnel, and a warrant that would arrive in the morning. "We go in at dawn," Rivera explained. "Teams from all 4 access points. Absolute priority is to locate and secure the victims." Reynolds sat in a corner studying the surveillance photos. Something bothered him. "These girls don't look like conventional hostages," he commented. "They're walking freely on the property. They don't seem scared or directly guarded." "What are you suggesting?" Rivera asked. "That we don't know what we're facing. If they've been held for 4 years without trying to escape, it's because something has been done to them. We need to be prepared for any kind of reaction when we phone them." Less than a mile from Harmony House, an FBI tactical assault team prepared in silence. The operation, codenamed Dawn, would begin at 5:30 a.m. None of them could foresee that in a few hours they would confront not just a criminal organization, but a far deeper horror. That of human minds deliberately fractured and rebuilt to serve dark purposes. And in her sterile room, Madison Walsh, lost inside the artificial identity of Lily, tossed restlessly as more fragments of her true life fought to break through to the surface. At 5:15 a.m., as the sky was just beginning to lighten, FBI tactical teams took their positions around Harmony House. The property, with its stone walls and restored farmhouse appearance, seemed to be sleeping peacefully. Special Agent Rivera from the command vehicle went over the plan one last time with the team leaders. "Remember, absolute priority, locate and secure the victims. We have confirmation of at least 5 young women, but there could be more. Proceed with extreme caution. We don't know how they will react." Reynolds, equipped with a ballistic vest and a radio, would join the main entry team. After 4 years of chasing ghosts, he was finally minutes away from finding answers. "All units in position," the tactical team leader confirmed. "Awaiting the order." Rivera glanced at his watch. 5:29. "Commence the operation," he ordered. What followed was a perfectly executed choreography of precise movements. The special teams first neutralized the security system, cutting external power and jamming communications. Then, simultaneously, they breached the 4 previously identified access points. Inside Harmony House, the first alarm sounded at 5:31. Dr. Reed, who was sleeping in a suite in the administrative wing, woke with a start. His first instinct was to activate the ASH protocol, designed for precisely this eventuality. He pressed a red button on the panel beside his bed, and immediately the lights throughout the facility shifted to an intense red hue. A sequence of tones, seemingly meaningless to the untrained ear, began to play over the speakers. But for the Harmony sisters, those tones were a conditioned trigger. In their rooms, the five young women awoke instantly, their pupils dilated, their bodies rigid. The programming took control. Lily, Madison, rose mechanically, picked up a small vial from her nightstand, and drank its contents without hesitation. The other four did exactly the same. The liquid was a potent mix of benzodiazepines and an experimental compound that would induce temporary amnesia, designed to erase any sensitive information in case of interrogation. The FBI team advanced methodically through the corridors, securing each room. 2 security guards were neutralized with little resistance. They seemed more surprised than prepared for a confrontation. Reynolds, along with 4 agents, reached the residential wing. "Rooms on the right," he indicated based on the blueprints. "They should be in here." The first door they opened revealed an empty room, the bed perfectly made. The second, the same. In the third, they found Iris unconscious on the floor. "Need a medic," an agent shouted, checking her vitals. "She's alive, but her pulse is weak." Reynolds continued to room 23. The door was ajar. Inside, Madison Lily lay on the bed, awake, her gaze lost on the ceiling. She didn't react when Reynolds entered. "Madison?" he asked softly, approaching. "Madison Walsh?" No response. Her eyes, though open, seemed to register nothing. "We have another one," he reported over the radio, unconscious but unresponsive, room 23. Within minutes, the teams had found all 5 young women in similar states. Conscious but completely dissociated, as if their minds were miles away from their bodies. Meanwhile, in the administrative wing, other agents were securing the offices and control center. They found Dr. Reed attempting to destroy documents in an industrial shredder. "FBI, hands up!" the agent in charge ordered. Reed, surprisingly calm, complied. "This is a misunderstanding," he said with a professional smile. "I'm a physician. These young women are my patients. You'll have plenty of time to explain," the agent replied dryly as he cuffed him. "You have the right to remain silent." By 6:15, Rivera received the confirmation. The facility was secure, 5 young women found, all alive, 6 staff members in custody, including Dr. Reed. No casualties. Paramedics entered immediately to attend to the women. The preliminary diagnosis was poisoning by unknown drugs. All 5 were rushed to Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago, where a specialized medical team was waiting. Reynolds accompanied the ambulance carrying Madison. Throughout the journey, the young woman remained in the same state of profound dissociation. Her eyes open but empty, unresponsive to verbal stimuli. "What did they do to them?" Reynolds murmured, watching helplessly as the paramedics monitored her vitals. At the hospital, the 5 women were admitted to a special unit, isolated from other patients. Initial toxicology reports revealed a complex mixture of substances, some unknown, along with benzodiazepines, antipsychotics, and others the labs couldn't immediately identify. Diana Walsh arrived at the hospital at 8:30 after an emergency flight from Boston. Reynolds was waiting for her at the entrance to the special unit. "She's alive," were the first words he said, and he watched Diana's face transform, with a mixture of relief and fear. "But I have to warn you. She's not the Madison you remember." "What do you mean?" Diana asked, her voice barely a whisper. "The doctors believe she's been subjected to some kind of mental reprogramming. She doesn't respond to her name. She doesn't seem to recognize anything from her past life." Diana covered her mouth with her hand, unable to fully process what she was hearing. "I want to see her." Reynolds nodded and led her through the security doors. In room 507, Madison lay connected to monitors. The effects of the drugs had begun to wear off, and she was now sitting up in bed, staring out the window with a vacant expression. "Madison?" Diana called softly, approaching the bed. "Honey, it's me. It's Mom." Madison slowly turned her head. Her eyes, once vibrant and expressive, now looked like two empty pools. She studied Diana's face, but her expression was a complete blank. "My name is Lily," she said, her voice a monotone. "I don't have a mother. I belong to Harmony House." Diana felt her knees buckle. Reynolds caught her just before she hit the floor. "The doctors say it will take time for the drugs to clear her system," he explained. "And after that, well, there are deprogramming specialists who will work with her." In another room, Helen Chen was living through a similar scene with her daughter, Olivia Rose. And in a third, the Torres family faced the reality that their Jasmine now answered only to the name Daisy, denying she had any parents or any life before Harmony House. Meanwhile, in an FBI interrogation room, Marcus Rivera confronted Dr. Reed. "Explain to me exactly what Harmony House is," Rivera demanded. Reed maintained his professional composure. "A treatment center for traumatized young women. We offer them a new identity, free from the painful memories of their past lives. And these traumatized young women just happen to have all been reported missing. They came to us voluntarily, seeking to escape abusive situations. That doesn't explain why we found rental agreements and invoices," Rivera countered, sliding documents recovered from the offices across the table. For the first time, a crack appeared in Reed's facade. His smile faltered. "I want my lawyer," he said finally. In the days that followed, the investigation revealed the true scope of the operation. Harmony House was just one of 3 similar facilities in the country. 17 young women had been identified as having passed through the reprogramming, and records suggested that some had been repeatedly rented out to wealthy clients for functions ranging from social escorts to extended stays as special guests in private residences. The network stretched to Europe and Asia, with connections to private clinics in Switzerland and Thailand. Dr. Lawrence Fleming, the program's founder, remained at large, presumably somewhere in Eastern Europe. For the families, the initial relief of finding their daughters alive soon gave way to a devastating reality. The young women they had recovered were not the same ones they had lost. Years of chemical and psychological manipulation had created an almost impenetrable barrier between them and their original identities. 7 days after the rescue, Madison Walsh still insisted her name was Lily. She didn't recognize her childhood bedroom, the family photographs, or even her dog who barked with excitement every time he saw her. Dr. Sarah Lipton, a psychiatrist specializing in victims of cults and brainwashing, was assigned to work with the 5 rescued girls. "What was done to them is an extremely sophisticated form of identity reprogramming," she explained to the assembled families. "They combined mind control techniques originally developed by intelligence agencies with recent advances in neuropharmacology. It's unprecedented, at least in any documented cases." "Will they recover?" asked Diana Walsh, the question on everyone's mind. Dr. Lipton hesitated before answering. "Every case will be different. The human mind has an astonishing capacity to heal. But this will take time, months, probably years of therapy. And you must be prepared for the possibility that some parts of their former selves may never fully return." Despite the grim prognosis, the families clung to every small sign of progress. For Madison, the first glimmer came unexpectedly. One afternoon, as Diana showed her the family album for the 100th time, Madison paused on one photograph. It was her at 12, next to an 8-year-old Sophia building a snowman in the yard. "Sophia," she murmured, her fingertips brushing against the image. She said nothing more, but her eyes welled with tears. It was a crack in the wall, small but significant. 2 weeks after the rescue, Madison was transferred to a specialized clinic in Boston, closer to home. The Neuropsychological Recovery Center occupied a Victorian building surrounded by tranquil gardens, a world away from the sterile coldness of Harmony House. Here, each patient had a private room decorated in warm colors, and they were encouraged to personalize their space. Dr. Lipton personally supervised Madison's case, applying a protocol that combined cognitive behavioral therapy, neurological rehabilitation, and the gradual reduction of the chemicals still circulating in her system. "The process will be slow," she warned Diana. "The first few days will be especially difficult as her body goes through withdrawal from the compounds she was administered for years." She wasn't wrong. During the first week, Madison, or Lily as she still called herself, suffered episodes of extreme anxiety, uncontrollable tremors, and night terrors. Her mind, deprived of the substances that maintained the artificial personality, fluctuated erratically between states of confusion. "I need to go home," she would repeat during these episodes, but she didn't mean the Walsh house. She meant Harmony House. "My sisters need me." Diana stayed by her side day and night, holding her hand through the crises, speaking softly about moments from her childhood, showing her photographs, home videos, and meaningful objects from her old life. On the 10th day, the first significant breakthrough occurred. Diana had brought Mr. Whiskers, the old teddy bear Madison had adored since she was 3. The toy, faded and patched, had been her inseparable companion until her early teens. Madison regarded it with initial suspicion, but something in the worn texture of the plush seemed to trigger a deep memory. Her fingers traced the seam on its left paw where Diana had repaired a tear years ago. "It tore when I went to camp," Madison mumbled, her gaze distant. "I hid it in my backpack and it got snagged on a bush." Diana held her breath. It was a real memory, an authentic fragment of the true Madison. "Yes, honey. You were 10. You cried so hard when you saw it was broken." Madison blinked, as if waking from a dream. The lucidity in her eyes lasted only a moment before the confusion returned. "No, that's not right. I'm Lily. I've always been Lily." But the seed had been planted. A memory had surfaced, intact from the depths. Dr. Lipton explained the phenomenon. What we call identity is actually a complex network of memories, emotional associations, thought patterns, and conditioned responses. What they did at Harmony House was suppress this network and build an artificial one on top. But the original wasn't destroyed, it was just buried. "So she's still in there? The real Madison?" Diana asked, hopeful. "The memories and emotional connections formed during her first 16 years are stored in her brain. The Harmony House treatment couldn't physically erase them, only block access to them. Our job is to rebuild those neural pathways." Meanwhile, the other rescued girls were undergoing similar processes. Olivia Chen had begun to occasionally respond to her real name, though she still insisted she was Rose most of the time. Jasmine Torres had recognized a traditional Puerto Rican dish her grandmother made for her. A small but significant advance. For the two unidentified girls, Iris and Violet, the process was even more complex. With no family memories or personal objects to act as anchors, they relied solely on therapy to piece together their fragmented identities. The FBI investigation continued to expand. Reynolds, who had requested permanent assignment to the case, coordinated with international agencies in the hunt for Dr. Fleming and others involved in the Harmony House network. "We've identified bank accounts in Liechtenstein and Singapore," he reported during an update meeting. "The financial records suggest this operation was generating millions annually. Their clients paid up to $50,000 for a 1-week rental." "Any progress identifying these clients?" Rivera asked. "It's complicated. They used a system of pseudonyms and shell payments. But we're following the money." We already have a few potential names, including a state senator and two Fortune 500 executives. A media scandal was inevitable. Though the FBI tried to protect the victims' identities, the story was too shocking to be contained. Elite trafficking ring uncovered and women reprogrammed to serve the rich were some of the more moderate headlines. For Sophia Walsh, now 16, the media attention was a small price to pay for getting her sister back. She had been cleared to visit Madison regularly, and these encounters seemed to have a particularly positive effect. I think it's because they shared a special bond before the kidnapping, Dr. Lipton explained. Also, Sophia represents a link to the world Madison lost just on the cusp of adulthood. And there's another factor. Since Sophia was younger, their relationship was defined by Madison's protective role. That instinct might be helping to break through the programming. During one of these visits, as they walked through the clinic gardens, Sophia brought a tablet with old family videos. One in particular showed a 15-year-old Madison teaching an 11-year-old Sophia how to ride a skateboard. In the video, Madison held her little sister by the shoulders, guiding her. "Don't be scared, Soph. I'm right here. I won't let you fall." As they watched the screen, Sophia noticed her sister was trembling slightly. Silent tears were streaming down her cheeks. "Do you remember that day?" Sophia asked softly. Madison didn't answer directly, but her fingers reached out to the screen, tracing the outline of their younger selves. "You fell anyway," she finally murmured. "You scraped your knee, and Mom got mad at me." Sophia stifled a cry of joy. "Yeah, Mom said I should have listened to you when you said I wasn't ready." For a moment, something like a smile touched Madison's face. It wasn't the full, easy smile of the sister Sophia remembered, but it was a flicker, an authentic fragment emerging from the abyss. These moments of connection gradually became more frequent. Sometimes they lasted mere seconds before the Harmony House programming reasserted itself, like fog descending on a briefly illuminated landscape. Other times, Madison would remain present for minutes at a time, asking questions about what had happened during her absence, though she never remembered these conversations later. Dr. Lipton explained this phenomenon as islands of identity that were beginning to reconnect. Imagine Madison's identity as an archipelago. Before she was taken, all these islands were connected by bridges. Harmony House destroyed those bridges and flooded the islands. Now, as the water recedes, the islands are reappearing. But the bridges have to be rebuilt. A month after the rescue, Madison began to have vivid dreams of her past life. They weren't always pleasant. Many involved the moment of her kidnapping, replaying it with increasing clarity, but every recovered memory, even the traumatic ones, was a piece of her original identity's puzzle. During one particularly intense session, Madison described the reprogramming process for the first time. "First, it was the drugs," she recounted in a flat voice, as if talking about someone else. "They kept you sedated but conscious. Then came the voices day and night, repeating your new name, your new story. They showed you digitally altered photos, fake videos where you were with your sisters, and then—" She stopped, her breathing quickening. "Then what, Madison?" Dr. Lipton asked gently. "Then came the white room. They'd strap you to a chair and project images, horrible, violent things, while they repeated your real name, associating pain and fear with who you used to be. Then they'd show calm, pleasant images while repeating your new name over and over until you hated hearing your real name and longed for the new one." These revelations proved crucial to the treatment of all the victims. Dr. Lipton adapted the protocol to incorporate systematic desensitization techniques, working to dissociate their real names from the conditioned fear responses. At 45 days, Madison accepted being called by her real name for the first time without showing signs of distress. Though she still referred to herself as Lily most of the time, she was beginning to acknowledge Madison as a part of her. "It's like they're two different people in my head," she explained in one session. Lily feels safe, simple. Madison is complicated, full of memories that hurt. They are both parts of you, Dr. Lipton replied. In time, you won't have to choose between them. You will integrate these experiences into one complete identity. While Madison's recovery progressed slowly, the investigation reached a critical point. Through international cooperation, Dr. Lawrence Fleming was located in Budapest. His extradition to the United States became a diplomatic priority. Reynolds visited Madison to inform her of the development, believing it might aid her recovery. "We found him, Madison," he said, sitting beside her on a garden bench. "The man who started all of this. He's going to face justice soon." Madison was silent for a long time, gazing at the spring flowers that were beginning to bloom. "He used to say he was saving us," she said finally, "that our old lives were full of pain and he was offering us peace. Some of the girls even thanked him." "Did you thank him?" Reynolds asked gently. Madison turned to him, and for the first time since her rescue, Reynolds saw a flash of the determination that must have defined the young woman before she was taken. "Never," she replied. "Even when I thought I was Lily, something inside me was still fighting." It was the first time Madison had spoken of her experience in the first person, implicitly acknowledging the continuity of her consciousness across both identities. A small but momentous step. That night, Madison had a different kind of dream. It wasn't a memory of the past or a nightmare about Harmony House. She dreamt of the future. She saw herself at a university, studying, living. It was an uncertain future, blurry in its details, but it was undeniably hers. When she woke up, she asked for something she hadn't requested before: a notebook. When they gave it to her, she wrote on the first page 2 words that marked the true beginning of her recovery: "My name." And below it, in a hand that was hesitant yet determined, "Madison Walsh." The notebook became Madison's anchor. Every day she added fragments, memories that surfaced, familiar sensations, names of childhood friends. Some entries were just single words. Others were detailed paragraphs about experiences that suddenly returned with crystal clarity. The act of writing is serving as a bridge between her scattered memories, Dr. Lipton Adiana explained during a follow-up meeting. Writing is an act of cognitive integration. When Madison puts a memory on paper, she is claiming it as her own, weaving it into her personal narrative. As June gave way to July, 2 months after the rescue, her progress became more consistent. Madison had begun to respond automatically to her real name. Her dissociative episodes, in which she would fully revert to the Lily persona, had dwindled from several a day to just 1 or 2 a week. One Friday afternoon, as Diana was folding fresh laundry in Madison's room at the clinic, her daughter asked an unexpected question. "How's Dad?" Diana froze, the t-shirt she was holding slipping from her hands. It was the first time Madison had asked about her father. "He's fine," she answered cautiously. "Worried about you, of course. He comes to visit on Sundays, even though I don't recognize him when he comes." Madison completed the thought. It wasn't a question. "It's been hard on everyone," Diana said, sitting down beside her daughter. "Your father and we separated a while after you disappeared." Madison nodded slowly. "I knew that, or I think I knew. I have these pieces of knowledge without memories, like data without context." Diana took her daughter's hand. "Do you want to see him more often? He could come tomorrow if you like." "Yes," Madison replied after a pause. "I think I'm ready." The meeting with James Walsh was another small breakthrough. Although Madison didn't show the emotional recognition everyone had hoped for, she maintained a coherent conversation, asking questions about his work and his life now. For James, who had faithfully visited every Sunday for 2 months, having received nothing but vacant stares, it felt like a miracle. "She seems more present," he later remarked to Diana in the hallway. "Like she's really there, listening." Dr. Lipton confirmed this perception. Brain scans are showing significant changes in the areas associated with personal identity and autobiographical memory. Her brain is literally rewiring circuits that were deliberately suppressed. But it wasn't all progress. Madison still experienced severe anxiety in specific situations. Certain songs triggered panic attacks. Stark white spaces like the clinic's tiled bathroom provoked uncontrollable tremors. And any mention of sisters plunged her into a state of confusion, where she would search for Rose, Daisy, Iris, and Violet. "These are conditioned responses," Dr. Lipton explained. "Part of the mind control process involved what we call anchors, specific stimuli designed to activate particular emotional states or memories. We are identifying and deactivating them one by one." By July, the federal investigation had expanded its scope. The arrest of Dr. Fleming in Hungary led to the identification of the network's financiers and clients. Among them were prominent names: a senator, 3 CEOs, several celebrities, and an alarming number of elite professionals who had rented the reprogrammed young women. Dr. Fleming's own testimony, negotiated in exchange for certain legal considerations, revealed the true nature of Harmony House. "It wasn't just sex trafficking," Reynolds explained to Diana during one of his visits. "It was a large-scale mind control experiment, partially funded by interests who believed they were developing techniques for other purposes." "What purposes?" Diana asked, dreading the answer. "Political persuasion, the training of deep-cover agents, the creation of malleable witnesses for specific trials. The applications varied depending on the client." This revelation added a new dimension of horror. The young women hadn't just been victims of exploitation. They had been test subjects in mind control techniques that various organizations planned to apply on a larger scale. For Madison and the others, learning this truth was part of their healing. As Dr. Lipton explained, understanding they were victims of a system far larger than themselves helps them process the experience without self-blame. In early August, Madison made a request that surprised everyone. She wanted to speak with the other sisters from Harmony House. "I need to see them," she insisted. "For better or worse, they're part of my story." The meeting was arranged with great care. Of the 5, only Madison, Olivia, and Jasmine had progressed enough in their recovery to participate. Iris and Violet, the 2 young women whose original identities remained a mystery, were still in more fragile states. The reunion took place in a common room at the clinic, under the supervision of Dr. Lipton and 2 other therapists. When Madison walked in and saw Olivia and Jasmine sitting by a window, she stopped short. "Rose, Daisy," she said automatically, using their Harmony House names. "Olivia," the young Asian American woman corrected her with a tense smile. "I'm trying to get used to it." "Jasmine," the other added, "though I still answer to both." Madison approached slowly and sat across from them. For several minutes, no one spoke. It was a strange scene. 3 young women who had lived together for years, sharing an unspeakable trauma, now reunited as familiar strangers. "Do you remember when they took us to the mall?" Madison finally asked. "It was a test to see if we could function in public without drawing attention." Olivia nodded. "We had to buy specific things, a magazine, batteries, and something else I can't remember." "Cough drops," Jasmine supplied. "I had the list." The conversation flowed gradually, jumping between shared memories of Harmony House and recovered fragments of their former lives. It wasn't a normal interaction between friends, but something more complex. Survivors recognizing in each other the same internal process of reconstruction. At the end of the meeting, when the therapist suggested it was enough for one day, Madison took the other two by the hand. "We're not sisters," she said, her voice firm. "We never were, but we survived this together. No one else can understand that." That night, Madison wrote extensively in her journal. Among her notes, one sentence stood out. "Today I saw Lily from the outside. She is inside me, but I am no longer her." In mid-August, Madison took another crucial step. She asked to visit her old home. After consultations between Dr. Lipton Reynolds, who was still coordinating security, and her parents, a brief visit was arranged. The Walsh home, a two-story colonial in a quiet Oak Ridge suburb, remained virtually identical to how Madison remembered it. Diana had kept her room untouched, a shrine waiting for her return. As Madison crossed the threshold of the house, her body visibly tensed. Reynolds, who accompanied her along with Diana and Dr. Lipton, watched her reactions closely. "Are you okay?" Diana asked, her voice filled with concern. "We can leave if this is too much." Madison shook her head. "No, I need to do this." With deliberate steps, she walked through the living room, her fingertips grazing over family photographs, books on shelves, the old piano no one had played since she vanished. When she reached the stairs, she paused. "My room is upstairs at the end of the hall," she said, as if reminding herself. She ascended slowly, each step a journey back in time. When she reached her bedroom door, she stood motionless for a few seconds before turning the knob. The room was a frozen testament to her 16-year-old self. Band posters on the walls, textbooks from her last semester, photos with friends, swimming trophies, all preserved, waiting for a Madison who no longer existed in quite the same way. She sat on the bed, running her hand over the quilt she had picked out on a shopping trip with Diana years ago. She picked up a photograph from the nightstand, her and Sophia at the beach the summer before she disappeared. "I remember this day," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Sophia was scared of the big waves. I held her hand the whole time." Diana, watching from the doorway, held back tears. It was the most specific personal memory Madison had shared spontaneously. The visit lasted less than an hour, but it was a significant milestone. On the way back to the clinic, Madison was unusually quiet. That night, the on-duty nurse reported hearing her crying softly in her room. The first genuine tears she had shed since her rescue, not of fear or confusion, but of grief for everything she had lost. The next day, during her session with Dr. Lipton, Madison spoke with a new clarity. 4 years, she said. They stole 4 years from me. I should have finished high school, gone to college. I should have watched Sophia grow up. I should have been there when my parents separated. It's natural to feel that loss, Dr. Lipton replied. It's a part of grieving. I don't just want to recover who I was, Madison continued. I want to build who I'm going to be now, because I'll never be that 16-year-old girl again. This perspective marked a turning point in her therapy. It was no longer just about recovering memories or dismantling the Harmony House programming, but about integrating all of it, the experiences before the kidnapping, the years as Lily, and the current process of recovery, into a cohesive identity that looked toward the future. By the end of August, Dr. Lipton proposed a new step, reintroducing Madison to educational activities. Her mind is ready for more stimulation. She needs concrete goals, something more than just getting well. Individual tutoring sessions in core subjects were arranged to assess her current academic level. To everyone's surprise, while Madison had lost 4 years of formal schooling, her intellectual capacity was intact. She needed to catch up in math and science, but in literature and history she demonstrated knowledge that went beyond her previous education. In Harmony House, they made us read constantly, she explained. Classic literature, history, philosophy. It was part of the refinement to be suitable companions for educated clients. This revelation, though disturbing in its context, offered a window of opportunity. With the right support, Madison could resume her education and reclaim some of the lost time. In September, 3 months after the rescue, Madison took another crucial step. She attended the preliminary hearing for Dr. Reed, one of the main operators of Harmony House. Though not yet ready to testify formally, she wanted to witness the proceedings from the public gallery. "I need to see him in chains," she explained to Reynolds. "I need to know it's really over." Reynolds escorted her personally along with a discreet security team. The hearing was held in a federal courthouse in Chicago. As Madison entered the courtroom and saw Dr. Reed sitting beside his lawyers, her body tensed. "Do you want to leave?" Reynolds whispered. "No," she replied with determination. "I need him to see me. I need him to know they failed." During the hearing, as the charges against Reed were read aloud, human trafficking, kidnapping, illegal administration of controlled substances, non-consensual human experimentation, and 23 other counts. Madison sat perfectly still, her gaze fixed on the man who had helped erase her identity. For a moment, Reed turned and saw her in the gallery. Their eyes met. Madison didn't look away. It was Reed who, flustered, turned back to the front. "He recognized me," Madison said later as they were leaving the courthouse. "He saw Madison, not Lily." October marked the 4th month since the rescue, and it brought a new challenge for Madison: social reintegration. Until then, her interactions had been limited to family, therapists, and the other survivors. Dr. Lipton felt it was time to gradually widen her circle. "Recovery doesn't happen in a vacuum," she explained. "Madison needs to practice her social skills in controlled but authentic environments." The first step was a meeting with Emily Parker, the friend whose house Madison had been walking to on the night she was abducted. Emily, now a 20-year-old college student, had kept in touch with the Walsh family throughout Madison's 4-year absence, occasionally visiting Diana and Sophia. When she heard about the rescue, she immediately asked to see her old best friend. The meeting was scheduled in the clinic gardens, a familiar setting for Madison. Emily arrived on time, visibly nervous, holding a small package wrapped in gift paper. Madison was waiting for her on a bench under a maple tree whose leaves were beginning to turn red. Seeing Emily, a shy smile appeared on her face, one of the genuine expressions that were becoming more and more frequent. "You cut your hair," was the first thing Madison said as Emily approached. Emily instinctively touched her now shoulder-length bob. "Yeah, a couple of years ago," she replied, surprised by the initial detail. "You went darker." Madison nodded. At Harmony House, they had dyed her reddish-brown hair a darker, almost black shade as part of the transformation into Lily. Though her natural color was growing in at the roots, Madison had decided to keep it that way for now. "It's different, but I like it," Emily added quickly, sitting down beside Madison. She handed her the package. "I brought you something." Madison carefully unwrapped the gift. It was a photo album, small and bound in blue cloth. Opening it, she found dozens of pictures of her and Emily from childhood up to age 16. Birthdays, school trips, study sessions, sleepovers. "I thought you might want to have these memories with you," Emily explained. "They're copies, so you can write on them or whatever you want." Madison traced her finger over a picture of them, around age 13, posing in enormous straw hats during a vacation to Cape Cod. "I remember this day," she said softly. Your mom insisted we put on sunscreen every hour. We ended up so sticky." Emily laughed, a mix of joy and relief on her face. "And you complained all day, but then you were the only one who didn't get burned." The conversation flowed with surprising ease after that. Emily talked about college, her psychology classes, her boyfriend of 2 years. Madison listened intently, asking questions, genuinely interested in the life her friend had built in her absence. When Emily timidly asked about what had happened during those 4 years, Madison answered with a frankness that surprised even Dr. Lipton, who was discreetly observing from a distance. "It's like remembering someone else's life," Madison explained. "I know what happened, but there's an emotional disconnect, as if it were all just a long, detailed dream." At the end of their meeting, Emily promised to return the following week. As they hugged goodbye, Madison held on a moment longer than was typical. "Thank you for not forgetting me," she whispered. This first successful reunion paved the way for others. Former classmates, her swim coach, neighbors who had watched her grow up. Each encounter helped to fortify the bridges between her past and her present. But not every aspect of her recovery progressed so smoothly. Madison was still plagued by frequent nightmares, especially after emotionally intense days. In them, Dr. Reed or Dr. Fleming would appear in her room, injecting her with the medicine that turned her back into Lily. "They are manifestations of your fear of losing control over your reclaimed identity," Dr. Lipton explained. "Your mind is processing the trauma, reminding you that you are still vulnerable." To address these subconscious fears, her therapy incorporated specific trauma processing techniques, including EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and narrative therapy, where Madison would rewrite the endings of her nightmares, giving herself the power that had been stolen from her. Meanwhile, the federal investigation continued to branch out. Dr. Fleming's testimony from Hungary, where he awaited extradition, had revealed connections to other similar operations in Europe and Asia. What began as a search for a few missing teenagers had spiraled into an international investigation into human trafficking and non-consensual psychological experimentation. Reynolds, who had been promoted to a special FBI unit, CX, dedicated exclusively to this case, visited Madison regularly to update her on their progress. "We found Iris," he informed her during one of these visits in October. "Her real name is Alicia Fernandez. She disappeared from San Diego in 2016. Her family is flying in to be with her." Madison received the news with a mixture of joy and sorrow. "And Violet?" Reynolds shook his head. "We're still working on it. She doesn't match any case in our database. She could be from another country or from a case that was never properly reported." Late in October, an unexpected breakthrough occurred. Madison, scrolling through news on a tablet provided for her studies, came across an article about the case. It included a photograph of the 5 young women taken at the shopping mall, their faces blurred to protect their identities. Yet something in the image caught her eye. "I know that necklace," she said, pointing to a small glint visible on Violet's neck. "It's not just any necklace, it's a Saint Cecilia medallion. Violet used to touch it constantly when she was nervous. She said it was her grandmother's." Reynolds, notified immediately, added this detail to the investigation. The Saint Cecilia medallion, patron saint of musicians, turned out to be the very lead they needed. Cross-referencing this information with international cases, they found a match. Violet Dubois, a French-Canadian piano student who had disappeared from Toronto in 2017 during an international competition. Her family had reported that she always wore the medallion from her grandmother, a renowned pianist herself. By November, all the victims of Harmony House had been identified and reunited with their families. Though each was progressing at her own pace, they shared the unique bond of having survived the same horror. At Dr. Lipton's suggestion, Madison began to write extensively about her experience, not just in her personal journal, but with the intention of eventually sharing her story. Narrative is powerful, the doctor explained. Turning your trauma into a story that you can control, that you can share on your own terms, is profoundly therapeutic. Madison found that writing came surprisingly naturally. The words flowed, sometimes painfully, but always with a sense of release. She began chronologically with her life before the abduction and moved gradually into the years at Harmony House, describing with clinical precision the methods used to erase her identity. "I want people to understand how mind control really works," she explained to Sophia during one of her weekly visits. "It's not like in the movies with a swinging pendulum or a magic trigger word. It's systematic, scientific, and terrifyingly effective." As Thanksgiving approached, Diana proposed something ambitious: a full family dinner at home, their first since Madison's rescue. "Are you sure?" Dr. Lipton asked when Diana consulted her. "That would be a significant step. Holidays can be emotionally charged even under normal circumstances." "Madison is ready," Diana replied with conviction. "And so are we." The dinner was planned with care. Only immediate family would attend: Diana, James, despite his separation from her, Sophia, and Madison. Dr. Lipton would be available by phone in case of a crisis, and an escape plan was established should Madison feel overwhelmed. The day before Thanksgiving, as Madison packed a small bag for her first night away from the clinic since her rescue, she received an unexpected visitor: Olivia Chen. "I wanted to see you before I fly to California with my parents," Olivia explained. Her own recovery had progressed remarkably. Almost no visible traces of Rose remained in her manner or speech. The two young women walked through the now autumnal gardens of the clinic, talking about their progress and their plans. "I'm going to testify at the trial," Olivia announced. "My therapist says I'm ready, and I want to see those monsters behind bars for the rest of their lives." Madison looked at her with admiration. "You're brave." "So are you," Olivia replied. "Every time we reclaim a piece of our lives, it's an act of courage." Before she left, Olivia handed Madison a small box. Inside was a silver charm bracelet. "A little shield," she explained, "to replace those horrible plastic wristbands they made us wear. Yasmin and I have one just like it. I thought we should all have one, as a symbol that we survived." Madison fastened the bracelet next to the faint, barely visible scar where her Harmony House ID band had chafed her skin for years. "We're warriors," she said, hugging Olivia. "The strongest," Olivia answered. Thanksgiving Day dawned cold, but sunny in Oak Ridge. Madison woke early in her old bedroom. She had insisted on sleeping there despite Diana's offers to prepare the guest room if she'd be more comfortable. She lay for a moment, staring at the familiar ceiling, listening to the sounds of the house. Diana already in the kitchen, the clinking of pots and pans, the scent of fresh coffee. The sounds and smells of home, of normalcy, of the life that had been stolen and that she was now, step by step, reclaiming. She rose and looked at herself in the vanity mirror. Her hair now showed an inch of its natural color at the roots. Her eyes, once constantly clouded by drugs and confusion, shone with a newfound clarity. The scars, physical and psychological, remained, but they no longer defined her. "Good morning, Madison," she said to herself, an affirmation she repeated each morning as part of her recovery ritual. Then, with a quiet determination, she went downstairs to join her family, ready to give thanks for a second chance she never thought possible. December arrived with the first snows and a significant change in Madison's life. After 5 months of intensive rehabilitation, Dr. Lipton deemed her ready for a gradual transition out of the clinical environment. "I'm proposing an outpatient regimen," she explained during a meeting with Madison and Diana. "Madison will live at home, with therapy sessions 3 times a week here at the clinic. She'll also continue her academic tutoring, preparing to eventually re-enter formal education. The plan included security measures as the trial against the Harmony House perpetrators was still unfolding, attracting media attention and occasional threats against the victims who had chosen to testify. Reynolds has coordinated with local police, Dr. Lipton assured them. There will be regular patrols in the neighborhood and a rapid response system in place for any incident. Madison listened to these precautions with a serene expression. The fears that had paralyzed her months ago had gradually given way to a quiet but firm resolve. "I'm ready," she stated. "I want my life back." On December 10th, Madison Walsh officially returned home. The transition was not without its challenges. The first few nights were particularly difficult. The nightmares returned with renewed intensity. On one occasion, Diana found her sleepwalking in the hallway, muttering phrases from the Harmony House indoctrination. But each obstacle was met and overcome with the tools she had acquired in her rehabilitation. Madison had learned grounding techniques for when she felt Lily trying to surface during moments of stress. She kept her journal close, writing extensively about her experience, fears, and hopes. A week before Christmas, Madison received a call that would change the course of her recovery. It was Yasmin Torres from Rhode Island. "I've decided to start a support group," Yasmin announced without preamble, "for us and for other survivors of mind control and trafficking. I've already spoken with Olivia and Alicia. Even Violet is going to join by video conference from Montreal." The idea resonated with Madison immediately. For months, she had felt that her experience, while intellectually understood by therapists and family, could only be truly grasped by those who had lived through something similar. "How can I help?" she asked. "We need a name," Yasmin replied, "and I thought you, with your gift for writing, could help us draft our mission statement." Madison didn't hesitate. That night, she worked late into the morning on a proposal. When she was finished, the document was titled, "Phoenix, Rising from the Ashes of Mind Control." The mission she had drafted was clear and powerful: to provide support, resources, and advocacy for survivors of coercive control, human trafficking, and systematic psychological manipulation. To educate the public about these hidden realities. To work with mental health professionals to develop better recovery protocols. And finally, to ensure that the perpetrators face the full force of justice. Yasmin was impressed. "It's perfect," she said when Madison sent her the document. "Exactly what we needed." On December 22nd, the first official meeting of Phoenix was held via video conference. The 5 survivors of Harmony House gathered virtually, each from her own city, with Dr. Lipton joining as a professional advisor. "What they did to us was designed to isolate us," Madison said during the inaugural meeting. "To turn us into islands, disconnected from our past and from any future they didn't dictate. By coming together like this, we are dismantling their work. We are reclaiming our ability to form genuine connections." That night, after the meeting, Madison added a special entry to her journal. "Today, for the first time, I felt that what happened to me might have a purpose. Not because it was good or just, but because I can transform it into something that helps others." Christmas arrived with a heavy snowfall that blanketed Oak Ridge in a pristine white sheet. The Walsh family, including James, who had been invited by Diana in a gesture of holiday reconciliation, gathered around a modestly decorated tree. For Madison, it was her first Christmas at home since 2014. The presents were secondary. The real gift was being there, present, aware, reconnected with those she loved. Sophia, now a young woman of 16, the same age Madison was when she disappeared, handed her a package wrapped with special care. "I've kept this since you were gone," she explained as Madison unwrapped the gift. "I added something new every Christmas, hoping one day you'd be able to open it." Inside the box was an album, but not of photographs. It was a chronological collection of letters Sophia had written to her missing sister over 4 years. Some were brief notes, scrawled in moments of pain. Others were long reflections on her life, her fears, and always the hope of seeing her again. Madison read the first letter right there, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. It was dated December 25th, 2015, just 5 months after she was taken. Dear Madison, it's Christmas today, and Mom tried to make everything feel normal, but nothing is without you. We left a place for you at the table like you were just running late and would be home any minute. I wish you were. I keep waiting to hear you laugh, or to hear you bugging me like you used to. Please come home. I promise I won't complain when you braid my hair too tight or use my makeup without asking. I just want my sister back. Love, Sophia. Madison pulled her sister into a tight embrace. I'm here now, she whispered, and I'm not going anywhere. The new year brought new challenges and new opportunities. In January of 2020, Madison decided she was ready to testify in the trial against the operators of Harmony House. Her testimony would be crucial in establishing how the system of mind control and trafficking truly functioned. Reynolds, who had remained her primary FBI contact and had become a trusted friend, prepared her meticulously for the experience. It will be intense, he warned her. The defense will try to discredit you, to suggest your memories are unreliable because of the drugs and manipulation. But we have physical evidence, medical records, and corroborating testimony to back up every word you say. On January 15th, Madison walked into the federal courthouse in Boston with her head held high. She wore a navy blue suit, chosen carefully to project seriousness and credibility. Her hair, which she had decided to let grow out in its natural color, was pulled back in a simple ponytail. As she passed the defense table, her eyes met Dr. Reed's for a brief moment. This time it was he who looked away first. For 6 hours, Madison testified with a clarity and precision that astonished even the most seasoned prosecutors. She systematically described the techniques used at Harmony House, the regularly administered drugs, the reprogramming sessions, the punishments for resistance, the system of rentals to select clients. When the defense attorney tried to suggest that perhaps she had gone to Harmony House willingly, seeking to escape family problems, Madison responded with a devastating calm. I was 16 years old with excellent grades and a loving family. I was applying to advanced university programs. I was abducted while walking home from my best friend's house for a sleepover. I was drugged, isolated, and systematically brainwashed until I forgot my own name. There was nothing, absolutely nothing voluntary about what happened to me. The cross-examination failed to break her. For every loaded question, Madison had a direct answer, backed by verifiable facts. Her memory, though fragmented in certain areas, proved remarkably precise regarding the operational details of Harmony House. When her testimony concluded, the judge addressed her directly. Miss Walsh, the court thanks you for your bravery and clarity. Your testimony has been extraordinarily valuable. That night, exhausted but filled with a sense of accomplishment, Madison wrote in her journal, "Today I used my voice, the one they tried to permanently silence, and it was heard." February brought long-awaited news. Madison had been accepted into a special education program for students whose schooling had been interrupted by exceptional circumstances. She would start in the fall, taking a combination of final-year high school and college-level courses with special accommodations for her unique situation. It's a pilot program, Diana explained, showing her the acceptance letter, designed specifically for young people who have experienced significant trauma or prolonged interruptions to their education. Madison read the letter several times, letting the reality of this new beginning sink in. "I'm going to graduate," she said at last, a genuine smile lighting up her face. "I'm going to have a future." By March, the Phoenix group had grown considerably. What began as a support circle for the 5 survivors of Harmony House now included more than 20 people from across the country. All survivors of different forms of coercive control, former cult members, trafficking victims, and survivors of extremely controlling relationships. Madison had become a prominent voice within the group, especially eloquent when explaining the psychological mechanisms of mind control to professionals and the general public. Her clarity and candor, combined with her growing technical understanding of the subject, made her an exceptionally effective communicator. When a major psychology journal requested an interview with survivors for a feature on post-coercive control recovery, the group unanimously voted for Madison to be their representative. The interview, published in April, featured a photograph of Madison sitting on a garden bench at her home, looking directly at the camera with serene determination. The headline quoted her words, "Mind control doesn't erase the authentic self, it only buries it, and what is buried can be unearthed." The article generated an extraordinary response. Mental health professionals, educators, and law enforcement officials contacted Phoenix seeking information, collaboration, and guidance for similar cases. Reynolds, on one of his regular visits, brought encouraging news. The Department of Justice is developing a specialized protocol for coercive control cases, based in large part on the information you all provided. They will no longer treat these cases as simple kidnappings or conventional trafficking. In early May, something happened that Madison had come to believe was impossible. She fell in love. Alex Hernandez, a psychology student volunteering with the clinic's academic tutoring program, had started helping her with her preparatory studies for the fall. The connection was gradual, built on sincere conversations, mutual respect, and a shared sense of humor that took Madison by surprise. She hadn't felt like genuinely laughing in so long that the first time Alex made her laugh out loud, the sound startled even her. When Alex finally asked her out for coffee outside of their academic context, Madison consulted with Dr. Lipton, unsure if she was ready for something so normal yet so complex as a date. "The fear is understandable," the doctor replied, "but don't let it stop you from living. Trust is a muscle. It gets stronger with use." The first date was brief and simple. Coffee at a small cafe near the park. Madison had been completely honest with Alex about her past from the beginning, and he had shown extraordinary understanding and patience. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to," he had said when they first met. "And if you ever need space or time, just say the word, no explanation needed." That transparency and respect for her boundaries was precisely what allowed Madison to feel safe exploring this new dimension of reconnection with the world. In mid-May, the trial against the main operators of Harmony House concluded with guilty verdicts on all counts. Dr. Reed was sentenced to 60 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Dr. Fleming, finally extradited from Hungary, would face his own trial in the coming months on even more serious charges as the program's founder. The news brought a bittersweet feeling to Madison. Justice had been served, but no sentence could give her back the lost years. "How do you feel?" Diana asked as they watched the news together on television. Madison reflected before answering. "Like a chapter has ended," she said finally, "but the book is still being written." On the last day of May, exactly 1 year after she had been identified in that shopping mall security video, Madison returned to the place where it all began, the sidewalk where she was abducted. Reynolds accompanied her for security and emotional support. There was nothing special about the spot. A quiet suburban street, family homes with well-tended gardens, Sidewalks shaded by mature trees, nothing to indicate that right there, on that exact point, Madison's life had been split into a before and an after. She stopped at the precise spot where the white van had pulled up beside her. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the early summer breeze on her face. "For a long time," she said at last, "I thought my life ended here, that the real Madison died on this spot, replaced by a ghost, an empty shell." Reynolds waited, giving her space to process the moment. "I know now I was wrong," she continued. "I didn't die here, I survived. And every day that passes, every memory I reclaim, every new experience I create is a victory." She bent down and placed a small stone on the sidewalk, a symbolic marker visible only to her. "This isn't a monument to what I lost," she explained. "It's a reminder of what I found, my own strength." As they walked back to the car, Madison looked up at the clear spring sky. For the first time in nearly 40 years, she felt not just hope, but certainty. The road ahead would still be complex and challenging, but she now knew without a doubt that she was capable of walking it. Her name was Madison Walsh, and her story was far from over.